And after 3 decades of my clinical counseling experiences, I see now, after experiencing this devastating pandemic COVID-19, people are pressing the panic buttons, and lots of people are seeking psychological help and help from the psychiatrists and help from social workers. It is a very positive development, and I'd like to say that we need to build a platform where psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers can contribute very concretely to the well-being of the society. Now, moving on to how do we contribute to the well-being of the youth, the students and teachers in higher education? Yes, I'm coming back, I'm coming back. Yes, all right, for my presentation, I am following a standard procedure that we follow in counseling psychology. First of all, I'll present the problem. Secondly, I will discuss the diagnosis. Thirdly, analysis. And fourthly, interventions. Higher education agencies like UGC, AICTE, and NIRF, they give us fabulous norms and guidelines about the quality of higher education. The quality of higher education depends on basically 3 factors: innovations in teaching, learning tools, and research methodologies. We have seen over the years a lot of improvements, a lot of updating, a lot of innovations have come into these 3 areas. Now, the question is, do these aspects match with the needs and wants of the stakeholders? Now, who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the students. Now, who are the students? They are in the age group of between 24 years. They are experiencing a kind of transition. From higher secondary, they are coming to college life, and during this period of life, they go through tremendous changes in the physical life, changes in the emotional life, changes in their cognitive behaviors, changes in their personal life, living, changes in their anatomies, and so on and so forth. They come out with needs and wants. And what is their real need? The need is that they want to establish their self. That is one of the real needs. And what is their real want, real desire? They want to excel in their studies. The 3 aspects of higher education, according to me, they meet one of the wants. And what is that want? They help the students to excel in their studies. What about the need? Do they help the students to establish their self? Well, we will see whether it is succeeding or not. When the students' needs and wants are gratified, they have functional mindset. They fully function, and they jump the ladder of success. Whereas when their needs and wants are deprived, what happens? They become dysfunctional in their mindset, and they cannot progress in their lives. They get stuck. They get stagnated. Now, can the system provide answers to these needs and wants? If at all it provides, can the system cater to a large number of youth that are under our care? Hmm? Okay, let's get into some kind of statistics. In the year 2011, number of youth in the age group 15 to 24 years was almost 1/5 of Indian population, was equal to 19.1 percentage. In the year, it is projected to be, in the year 2026, it projected to be 34.33 percentage. Well, it's going to be explosion of population. Will our system fulfill and gratify the needs and wants of this explosion of population? Will the system evolve strategies to help the students to establish themselves and to excel in their studies? I think we are missing something. We are missing the mark. Here comes the role of positive psychology and psychotherapy. I will explain to you further. In the findings that was conducted in the year 2010 by RGNIYD, Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Youth Development, located in Sri Perambatoor. The study was conducted on over 500 CEOs, and their long-term job success, their promotion, their payment. Uh, they said 75% of their long-term success, promotion and payment and fulfillment dependent on the people skill. Whereas only 25% of technical knowledge help them to promotion and the other aspects of life. Now, to corroborate the Indian studies, we have a study conducted in the Harvard University, and you can find this statistics in the book If You Can Win, written by Shiv Khare. The Harvard University, according to the statistics, 85% of the success in employment and promotion depends not on technical skills, not on formal education, that not on the degrees that you get from the higher education institutions, depends on attitude, life skills, people skills. And how many percentage count for technical skills? Only 15 percentage. The tragedy is 100% of the budget money spent on education, which account only for 15% success only. It's a serious gap of 15 to 85 percentage. How do we fill this gap of 75 percentage? That's the higher education system address these challenges. We proceed. And we have to look at some of the hard realities of higher education and why I am reiterating that better role of psychotherapy, psychological counseling will help the youth to develop their career, to develop their lives, and to develop their society, and to develop the nation, and they will contribute for the capacity building of the nation. But there are hurdles. What are the hurdles? Some hard realities of higher education. High percentage of students, they feel inferior. They cannot face interviews. Their communication skills are very poor because they think they cannot. They suffer from low self-esteem issues. I have no clue what group dynamics are. I have no decision-making abilities. Cannot choose a job, career, spouse, or a habit. They lack social skills. They lack employability skills. It is said there are a lot of employment available in the market, but then there are not enough people with skills to seek these employments. That sounds very strange. What about the other realities? High percentage of students cannot manage stress, and they won't end their lives. They indulge in drinking, using drugs, indulge in abusing themselves. Yes, yes. Am I clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. They become victims of political forces or dirty peer group pressure. They lack social grace. What do you mean by social grace? They lack civic sense, good manners, decent language. Many times we see even educated people using foul and filthy language, etiquettes, public behaviors. They don't know, students, they don't know to behave well in public. They are very reactive, over emotional, and not proactive. They lack empathy. And more realities, this is very surprising. It's our own experience. 85% in higher education don't even spend 30 minutes for study after the class hours. My dear friends, this is the UGC survey. And in private studies, we have found out that 75% in higher education don't even read 5 pages a day at home. Once they leave the college premises, they don't know what to do. They don't even open their books. And 40% of the students, they don't even read a page. Now, you may ask me, what about lecturers and professors? Well, we need to answer. Now, what are the cases? What are the cases that we have been dealing? Can you mute your mic, please? Somebody's mic is on. Okay. So this is the outcome of the study done on 500 students, 500 students who have undergone short-term psychotherapy or long-term psychotherapy. The short-term psychotherapy lasts for 3 sessions, 3 into 45 minutes, and long-term psychotherapy lasts for 7 sessions, 7 into 45 to 1 hours. So these are the cases that I have been dealing in my clinical settings. Well, lack of concentration, attending skills, lack of motivation, lack of goals, time management, fear, anger, anxiety, guilt, low self-esteem, passive-aggressive behaviors, depression, interpersonal relationships, stress, addictions to social media, alcohol and drugs, conflict resolutions, friendship and peer pressure, sexual problems, suicidal ideations and attempts. Now, you may be interested in these statistics. Problems for which students help, we have given it in percentage wise. You see it on the top. For academic problems, it's only 15%. The rest of the 85% of the problems are psychological problems. Academic problems are only 15%, and 85% of the problems for which students seek professional help, they are psychological in nature. Now the question is, do the universities and colleges address these challenges, help these students to overcome these problems? Well, in central government and state governments, they advocate that every schools, every colleges, every universities, they should employ professional counselors, professional psychologists. But then, how do they support? How much of social support they give to the institutions? So not only social support, but financial support. If only counselors, psychologists, psychotherapists, and psychiatrists are given social and financial support, the stakeholders under care, they can be taken care. So this is one of the challenges that we are facing in today's higher education. Now, coming to the diagnosis, why students face only 15% of academic issues. Rest of the issues are psychological issues. Now, the student's mind is vacillating between two realities. On the one hand, they want to excel in studies, that is the research. On the other hand, they want to establish themselves. But then on which aspect, unconsciously, they invest more energy? I think it's in the second aspect. In the psychological issues, in developmental issues. What are the developmental issues of the college students who are interested to us? In the Bible, I think there are over 100 references. Either God asked people or people ask God, who are you? Well, it's an interesting question. Suppose if I ask you, who are you? What will be your answer? In the Bible, the answer was, I am I. And another answer was, I am he. Which means what? Don't, probe me further. But then, when it comes to the students who are interested to us, we need to, probe further and, help them in a way that they can nurture not only their lives, but also the life of the people who live among them. Now, if you ask the youngsters the same question, who are you? I think invariably every youngster will say the same answer. And the answer is, I am I. What is this I am I? It's an acronym. I want to explain. I stands for identity. So identity doesn't mean the name, the college, and skills, talents, and so on and so forth. Identity is much more than that. First of all, the person identifies his identity, his own identity. He decides, he resolves that this is his identity with his own attitudes, belief systems, value systems, friendships, social commitments, and all the other things. Now, it's not enough that the person concerned identifies his identification. It is also a public nuance. The public also has to recognize his values, his potentials, his contributions, his credentials. If only the public reflects back to him who he is, he will develop his identity. If not, what will he do? There's going to be utter confusion about his identity. And when students are experiencing such a dilemma in their life, especially during their higher education, it is the role of the institution. Here comes the positive role of psychological counseling. It is the role of the psychologists, counselors, psychiatrists to clarify and give him back the identity that he is searching for. It is a search. It is much more than a research. Research, you do it for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years. At the most, 5 years, if you are a PhD scholar. But then, when you're searching for identity, it goes from the year 12 to 24, and for about 12 years the search is going on. In fact, this is the stage that the youngsters develop a lot of mental illness, a lot of psychological problems, though it may be evident in the latent stage. But this is the stage, but this is the age, from the age 12 to 24, they develop a lot of psychological illness, though the symptoms come out later. So it's a role of the institutions, the department, the psychotherapists, psychiatrists, and psychologists to mirror back to him the real identity I. Otherwise, he will perish in confusion. A. A stands for autonomy. What is autonomy? Freedom. Freedom from what? Is it freedom from parental control? It is freedom from teachers monitoring. It is freedom from laws and regulations. Is it freedom from examinations? No. It is an experience of independence. Independence. Now what happens? This is the age that the students want to be independent. They would like to go out on their own. They don't need the accompaniment of their parents and the teachers. They want to be with their peer group. They want to be in the hostels. They want to go for the tour. They want to enjoy their lives in peer groups. It's all well and good. But then what happens? They become over independent. They become over independent. When they become over independent, what happens? It's likely that he will reject all the values that he has learned in the family, in the school, and in the colleges and the society. When students of his age, when they become over independent, what happens? They get into they indulge in antisocial activities. It is these students who have developed too much autonomy for themselves. It is said they become terrorists, militants, and they have unwanted sexual attractions. They get into abuse like alcohol, drugs, and so on and so forth. So once again, it is the role of the higher education to tell the students, instruct the students, hey, over dependence is unhealthy, over independence is unhealthy, interdependence is healthy. Now moving on to the third aspect, morality. What is this morality? The constant question a youngster asks is that what is right and what is wrong? What is good and what is bad? Can I do the right thing or the wrong thing? He's vacillating. He's vacillating between good and bad. Now, the problem is when he's vacillating for a very long time, then the pathology, creeps in. What is that, pathology? The problem is deformation of, conscience. Now, all these years, his conscience was formed in a very sequential manner from the parents in the families, from their relatives, from the teachers, from their friends, from their mentors, from the professors. But once he starts questioning, hey, why should I do this? What is wrong in doing this? Once he begins to justify all his actions, then the pathology creeps in. What is that pathology? Deformation of conscience. All that he has been forming into a good conscience takes the other way. Now, all the more we see these days youngsters, they are all looking for role models. If you ask the youngsters today, who is your role model? In our times, maybe in your times, professors, in your times, if we were asked the question, who were our role models, we had one or the other people like, but then today you ask these youngsters, who are their role models? Well, many of them will not have anybody's name to mention. Well, they don't find any role model in the society. Not only in the, not in the family, not in the school, not in the colleges, not in the society, not in the political patronage, not many in the country, not many in the world. So what can they do? Definitely, the pathology creeps in, the pathology of defamation of conscience. Moving on to the fourth aspect, intimacy. One of the important aspects of today's youth, intimacy. Who do I love? Do I love my parents intensely? Do I love my friends intensely? Do I love my classmates intensely? Do I love my teachers intensely? Who do I love? What gives me meaning? Dear friends, all type of love depends on three factors. What are those three factors? Intimacy. Intimacy gives them a kind of emotional platform. You need to express your feelings and emotions to somebody. If you are close to somebody only, you can express your feelings and emotions. You cannot express your feelings and emotions to anybody and everybody. So intimacy is one of the aspects of love. Second aspect of love, any type of love, passion. What is that passion? You need a physical holding environment. The physical holding environment provides the base for two people or more people to exchange their ideologies, exchange their feelings, exchange their emotions, and be at home. Now, here is a physical, platform that gives you, kind of, physical and psychological, safety. And thirdly, the cognitive state of mind, the capacity to understand love relationships. Well, if love relationships are not understood, if these three aspects of love are not present in their love relationships, definitely this relationship will collapse. And it will also collapse when this love relationship becomes exclusive. What do I mean by exclusive? You become possessive of your friends. You become very private, become very secretive. You do not want to be public. Do not want to introduce your friends to your family. Do not want to introduce your friends to your teachers, your mentors. You do not want to talk about your friendship even to anybody. You keep it very private, very secret. I tell you, my dear friends, all those people who have exclusive friendships, if they keep it very private, secretive, you can be very sure they are trying to make mistakes. They are planning to make mistakes. Therefore, the role of psychotherapists, psychologists, and counselor psychologists is very, very crucial here. You need to tell these youngsters, hey, this is good and this is not so good. You have friendship, but let it be inclusive, not exclusive. And if you take some of the cases that they have taken and decide actions and wanted actions leading to many devastating consequences, it's all because that they have they are having exclusive friendship. So to say, the young mind is in constant search to resolve these developmental issues of intimacy, autonomy, morality, no, identity, autonomy, morality, and intimacy. In fact, this picture explains to us the age of the youth is like a roller coaster experience. The roller coaster experience, what is this roller coaster experience? Is only on two occasions that you are on the ground. One, when the roller coaster, when you are on the roller coaster, before it starts, you are on the ground. When it goes up and down, it swings, fluctuates, the speed fluctuates, goes up and down, and it comes back once again, starting and landing, you are on the ground. So in the same way, the life of youth can be compared to this experience of roller coaster experience. So when they step into the college, they are, they are on a plain ground. They are on a playground. But then afterwards, what do? They search for identity, search for autonomy, search for morality, and search for intimacy. So by the time, they form themselves, they establish themselves. Once they establish themselves, you can be very sure they will accept in studies also. So once they do this, by the time when they come back, they will be 22 or 23 years. Now we have a big role to play. The significance of counseling psychology has a big role to play in what? In healing the psyche of the people who are interested to us, healing the soul of the people who are interested to us, not only the students, but also the teachers, and all who are interested to us. Now, what are the possible interventions that we can think of? Number one, walk the talk. What do I mean by walk the talk? I think it is a responsibility of the parents in the families, teachers and lecturers in the colleges, in the institutions, and leaders in the nations. We need to walk the talk. We cannot afford to be, dichotomic in our life. We need to be congruent in our life. What do I mean by congruent? You do what you say. Do the thing that you are saying. You say you keep one stand for yourself and other stand for others. That doesn't work. This is one of the serious problems that we find in the society. The failure to walk the talk. Failure to walk the talk is one of the serious problems that the society is facing. And second possible intervention can be mentoring system. UGC, AC, ITE, and NIRF. They give a standard teacher student ratio. I think none of the agencies they give the teacher student ratio above 1:30. 1:30 is a teacher student ratio that they are advocating in all the institutions. But then it doesn't work. In one classroom, there are 60 students, sometimes 70 students. Therefore, the introduction of a mentoring system has found to be very, very successful. For example, in all the Jesuit institutions, we introduced this mentoring program. How do we do it? We entrust 20 students to a teacher, and one teacher takes care of these 20 students throughout the year, throughout his academic career in the college. If he's a UG student, the same mentor accompanies him for 3 years. If he's a PG student, the same mentor accompanies him or her for 2 years. So the catchword for mentoring is care, C-A-R-E. A mentor is called to care, accompany, reflects, and experience. When a mentor does it, definitely students experience the psychological and social support for what? To establish themselves. That is one of the serious needs of the students today. So excellence in studies that will follow. But what is more important to the students is that establishing themselves. And thirdly, professional counseling. Well, this has to be promoted. Students may not come to you in the beginning, but then once they come to know that you are a professional counselor and you do in a different way, students will come to you. Even when I joined this class, when college, and many people used to ask me, do the students, come to you for counseling? Because previously they were counselors and students were not going. Therefore, we had to do some changes. Well, sometimes when people ask me to the students, come to you for counseling, it's discouraging. But then once you prove yourself, students come to you, and once they come to you, they will never leave you. This is my experience. This gives me joy in my profession. Whether they complete their studies, where they are gone out of the college, where when we meet even 15 years, 20 years, the same rapport with which we had professional counseling, still remains. We can easily, connect to people like. So, but then the institution, do they provide professional counselors? No. Sometimes, how many institutions have professional counselors? I'm not sure whether the institution that is organizing this webinar, they got a professional counselor. We have two counselors. We have two counselors for how many students? For about 7,000 students. Well, in such cases, we can make use of mentors so that we can follow the students closely. We think they have grown over the shoulders, so therefore they don't need our help. No, our hypothesis is wrong. They need our help. They need our help much more than they needed when they were child, much more than when they needed when they were in the schools. Because this is the time that they are searching to establish themselves. And fourthly, value education. Now, we cannot afford to have a system, value free. We have to have, value laden system. We need to bring up, students in value education. So value education, when it becomes a foundation, I think UGC is very strong on this. It helps a lot of students to, find a kind of integration. You see, colleges provide, so many programs, so many courses. They are all, hanging in the air like in bits and pieces. Now, how do we integrate? Who helps them to integrate all these, courses? Now, ultimately, what a student wants, they want to have an integrated experience of the mind, the heart, and the body. They need an integration. So somebody has to do that. So therefore, the role of counseling psychology becomes all the more important. Sex education. It's very strange. We don't discuss this issue. Nowhere. You know, children, students, adults, they watch, movies, they watch television, they watch read, unwanted magazines, and they come to know, they help themselves, help themselves. Now, the danger is, if there is no formal sex education, there's a lot of misunderstanding, and because of this misunderstanding, many of the students feel such experiences have to be instant, immediate, and so on and so forth. Now, there are many students, for them, premarital experience or post-marital experience. Well, they don't have opinions whether it is right or wrong. Well, a proper sex education in higher education should prove to be good. Life skills and soft skills. Said, parents under care, they go through all the 6 semesters, go through all the 4 semesters, but at the end of it, they are not, capable of joining a reputed company. They need to be taught in the life skills and soft skills. So these are the interventions the institutions give, like walking the talk, mentoring, professional counseling, value education, sex education, life skills, and soft skills. What about the parents? Parental monitoring. Parents, if there are parents, I am a parent. I know many parents are, listening to me. You know, don't be complacent. Don't be complacent that um, your children have grown up and they don't need to be questioned. In fact, this is a time you have to question. Most of the parents are silent. Most of the parents are not asking questions because they are afraid to ask questions. When they ask questions, they are afraid that their children may, in return, ask questions. When the children ask questions, parents will not have answers. So, therefore, parents are in a silent. Parental monitoring. We need to be models. We need to continue to do sacrifice for our children and promoting interdependence. Don't leave him alone. He will go astray. Bring him back. And connecting to intergenerational relationships. You need to collect your grandparents, great grandparents, your family people, your siblings. They need to have that intergenerational relationship. Why? Because that will help them to establish their real psychological self. Self-help techniques, plenty of techniques available. We should help them to learn all these new techniques and proactive role of the state and the center. Well, I like to see more from the state and the center, especially providing, allocating fund not for not for education alone, but specifically for the psychological support of the students and healthcare measures. It's not only physical health care; it's also mental health care, and above all, the higher education. When we provide the holding environment, definitely the students who are interested to us, they will they will not only establish themselves but also excel in their studies. They will come out in flying colors because they have learned to integrate their mind, heart, and body. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. Thank you, sir, for your excellent presentation of the topic. By incorporating various factors of higher education, we all have been benefited by your wonderful talk on this important topic, including the value education in higher education. Thank you so much once again for your excellent talk on the topic of counseling,
Thank you, Professor Budang.
psychology, and education. Sir, we have few questions. We have few questions from the participants.
Yes, yeah.
Shall I represent them, sir? Or you
Yes.
want them to ask directly?
Go ahead, yes.
There's one question by Rajesh Rai. The question is, do you think that the current method of education is sufficient for the growth of a student? I repeat the question, sir.
Yes, I understood the question.
Okay,
I've
sir.
already clearly stated the current strategies and methodologies used in the current type of education does not gratify the real want of the students. What is the real, need of the student? Establishing self, the psychological self. The current education system, um, sometimes it is, most of the time, it is subject oriented. Well, it needs to integrate other areas of the youth needs and wants. It need to be employment oriented. It need to be social oriented. It needs to be um, moral oriented. It needs to be psychological oriented. The current system, of course, they have a lot of established norms and regulations that takes care of the subject, the subject matter. I would prefer that they take care of the psychological and the other social factors, social fabrics of higher education.
Thank you, sir. I hope Rajesh Rai has uh, is clear with the response that sir has given. We have another question, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
The question is increased use of social media
Yeah,
and ICT is a cause of mental illness
yeah,
and many psychological disorders in students at higher education.
yeah.
How to it? The question was posted by Richard Chaurasia.
Sure. They are. We have to see it in from two perspectives. For what purpose we are making use of this social media? For constructive purpose or destructive purpose? If social media is used for the purpose of education, to bring excellence in education, for research work, to establish relationships, to pass on the vital information to the society, for communication purpose, it's well and good. But then the problem is the most of the time, not most of the time, some people they don't know how to make use of social media. They spend a lot of time on this, and they waste their time. It's the colossal wastage of their time that affects the psychological well-being of the people. Not only psychological well-being of the people, it also exhibits in a kind of psychosomatic symptoms. People get headaches. People develop eye problem. People remain isolation. Sometimes people can even become depressed in their lives. So it depends for what purpose they are making use of the social media. Definitely, there is a tendency to make more use of social media than other things. Like, see, for example, in my statistics of how many students when it comes to reading habits, how many of them really read 5 pages a day? Well, very few. And so there are 40% of the students they don't even read 1 page a day. See, reading is very hard. One of the very hard activities for the students is in reading. But by reading, you can easily develop your knowledge. But by looking and spending your social media, definitely you're also inviting problems. So here, in the parental role comes, and the peer group role comes, and we need to strike a balance while watching this social media.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We have another question. The question was put up by Red Lady. The question goes, Many students are tight-lipped when it comes to sharing their problems. What can we do as a teachers?
Okay. So in psychology, we call it as mum effect, M-U-M, mum effect. Meaning what? They don't want to be challenged. They don't want to be questions. So when they are exhibiting this kind of behavior, it's a behavior. Mum effect is a behavior. So what does actually a student want from the teacher? Student actually wants some attention. The teacher keeps on asking a question. He or she doesn't give any responsible reply or answer. So what does it mean? This is a very clear symptom that he or she is having some deeper problem. So this is the time that the teacher, maybe as a mentor, maybe as a class teacher, maybe as a guide, call him or her privately, separately, and give him a kind of confidence and hope. And probably you need to listen to the students. When you call the students and you talk to them, definitely they will talk to you. They need attention. They need a little more attention.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
We still have one more question. She is from, as a commerce graduate, how do I begin?
Can you come again?
What is the best way to take up counseling as career? As a commerce graduate, how do I begin? The question was asked by
Well, if, well,
Marianne from Dubai.
well, there is no hard and fast rule that you cannot pursue studies in counseling. Yeah. I think these days many colleges are, offering these, providing these venues that any student with any degree, any undergraduate degree, can join in a PG program in counseling in psychology. I know some colleges and institutions that even with your commerce degree, you can join a regular program in counseling psychology. There is no hard and fast rule that you should have completed BA psychology or BSc psychology. So any degree will do to join a PG program in counseling psychology.
Thank you, sir, for your response. Now, Madam Yang Li wants to ask one question. So, Madam, you may please unmute yourself and ask question directly to this resource person. Hello. Yes. Uh, we are not getting her line, so I shall represent her in the question. Her question was whether sex education should be included in higher education. Sir.
But it can be part of the foundation courses. It can be integrated in the foundation courses. I think UGC is very clear about that. All higher education institution should have foundation courses. So sex education can be integrated as part of the foundation courses. Am I clear to you? Or you want when or where? Which stage of life that sex education should be introduced? Was it your question?
I think it's clear.
Yes, clear?
There are many questions, but due to shortage of time, we will not be able to represent all the questions. I would like to make one announcement to all the participants. The feedback link is already available in the and in the YouTube. The link will be active for 20 minutes. The certificates will be issued only to those who attend the session and submit the feedback form. The certificates will be issued within 10 days to your respective email ID. Thank you, sir, for fixing all the questions and queries raised by the participants, both from India and from abroad. And we also thank all the participants for your active participation and interaction as well. Sir, we once again thank you for clearing all the doubts of the participants. Now I invite Ms. Temchendola, Assistant Professor and Head of Department of Education, Southern College, Tusang, Nagaland, India, to say a word of thanks on behalf of the department. It's over to you, Miss.
Hello, am I audible? Honorable dignitaries, respected resource person of today, and dear participants. On behalf of my education department, Southern College, Nagaland, India, and its entire faculty, I feel immense pleasure to take this opportunity to propose a word of thanks to our keynote speaker, Dr. John Palia, professor in the Department of Counseling Psychology, St. Joseph College, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, for such a wonderful and informative session on counseling psychology in higher education. We really enjoyed your session, sir. Thank you so much. I take this opportunity to specially extend my deep regards and thanks to Dr. A. Vimal Chiral, Assistant Professor, Computer Science, St. Joseph College, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, for all the technical support provided in webcasting our webinar. My sincere thanks goes to Sri Longdi Chang Sityer, Acting Principal, Southern College, Nagaland, India, for all the moral support and allowing us to conduct this webinar. My special thanks also goes to Sri Deepak Nath, Assistant Professor, Southern College, for assisting and helping us in this webinar. I would also like to thank Mr. Motang Xiu, Assistant Professor, Department of Education, for chairing the webinar, and also Srimati Yanikamla, Assistant Professor, Department of Education, for introducing our speaker of today. Lastly, but surely not least, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to all the participants of this webinar. Thank you, one and all. Have a wonderful evening.
So thank
Over to
you.
Sir Motang.
Before we wind up our webinar, I would like to once again make announcement that the feedback link is already in the Google Meet and YouTube. Please fill up and submit it. The link will be active for 20 minutes and the certificates will be issued only to those who submit and those who attend the session. Your respective certificates will be mailed to your respective email ID within 20 days. I'm sorry, within 10 days. We have large number of participants from within the country and outside the country. So please bear with us as you wait for your respective certificates. We will try to issue within 10 days from today. I would once again convey our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to all the participants for your active response, and also to our resource person for his wonderful representation on this very important webinar. Now, I, the host of the webinar, officially close our today's webinar program. Thank you all. Stay home, stay safe. God bless all.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much, Professor Mudangshu and all the others. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Please fill up the feedback form and submit.
Thank you
You
so
will
much,
get
sir.
your certificate in your respective email ID.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.